Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm Tami Stackelhaus, fibromyalgia coach, author, and founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. The goal of this podcast is to empower you with access to the dream team of experts and coaches I've discovered are key to living the fibro life you love. From the comfort of your own home, and maybe even your pajamas, I'll help you take back control of your life and health. To help out with FibroFog, I always include full show notes and additional resources at fibromyalgiapodcast.com. You're listening to the Fibromyalgia Podcast with Tami Stackelhaus, episode 61. Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tami Stackelhaus. In today's episode, we are celebrating Fibromyalgia Awareness Day by talking with some colleagues in Norway. We're going to be chatting with the team from FibroFokus, the first outpatient fibromyalgia clinic in Norway. Before we dive into our interview, I have our listener shout out for you for this week. This was a comment that was made on our Facebook page. And this listener says, I was just diagnosed this week and found your podcast today. This episode in particular has been very helpful to me. Thank you for the care you put into your podcast. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for those of you who are wondering, the episode she's talking about is episode 57, How to Talk to Others About Your Fibromyalgia with my friend Kimberly Wicks. You can find that. We'll have that link on today's show notes at fibromyalgiapodcast.com/61 for today's show notes. And we'll have that link for you in case you want to check out that episode as well. Now, today I have a very special group to talk with. We are going to be talking with the team from FibroFokus in Bergen, Norway. Now, as I mentioned, this is the first fibromyalgia outpatient clinic in Norway. And you're going to hear in this interview why that is so important. We have with us Regina Frisch, who is Norway's first fibromyalgia therapist. She is also the first graduate from my training program in Norway. She is a certified fibromyalgia advisor. She is also a trained clinical social worker and family therapist. Now, she has had fibromyalgia and has lived with symptoms for 15 years. You'll hear more of her story in this interview. And she's got work experience both from the social services office and with Social Security benefits. She, for the last 13 years, has been working as a therapist and is a leader in substance abuse and trauma treatment in the Specialist Health Service in Bergen. Now, in addition, Regina is also a wellness agent in the Norwegian Rheumatism Association, and she teaches a mastery course for people with rheumatic diagnoses, muscle and skeletal disorders. Again, you're going to be hearing more about Regina's story and how that led to the formation of FibroFokus. She is one of the founders of this fibro clinic. The other person that we're interviewing today is Dr. Hege Tønnesen. She is the medical doctor who is part of the FibroFokus clinic. In fact, she's the consulting doctor for the clinic. She studied medicine and graduated as a doctor from the University of Bergen. She also completed studies, rotation, started in general medicine, took over a general practice, did that for 11 years, and became what is called in Norway a specialist in general medicine. She's met with many patients who have fibromyalgia and other chronic diseases and really has experienced the frustration that so many doctors have when there really isn't very many options for fibromyalgia. In Norway, there were only inpatient clinics where you would actually go and stay for 3 or 4 weeks. Again, you'll hear about that in the interview. And it was just so frustrating for her to not have a lot of good options. So when she was approached by Regina to start FibroFokus, she thought, yes, this is it. So you are going to hear from her, her experience as a doctor wanting to help people with fibromyalgia and how FibroFokus is finally the way to do this. FibroFokus was founded last year. They started seeing patients just last year in 2020. Of course, there was a lot leading up to opening their doors, but they just started seeing patients last year in 2020. And the goal for the clinic is really to reduce stigma, to increase knowledge about fibromyalgia, and ultimately to help people live their best life ever. As you listen to this interview, you are going to hear from Regina, who is a fibromyalgia patient herself. She's going to talk about her own fibromyalgia journey. You're going to hear about the clinic and how they approach treating fibromyalgia. We're going to be talking about what an integrative approach means and what that actually looks like in practice, how they go about meeting with their patients and helping them feel better. Now, I realize most of you listening are not in Norway, and so going to see the practitioners at FibroFokus probably isn't an option for you. But I'm hoping that this is going to give you some ideas for the kind of people you need to have on your medical team. You might not be finding them all at one clinic, but you can find them in multiple places and sort of create your own team. Of course, if you ever need any help with that, just reach out to me or one of my coaches. We would love to help you create your own fibromyalgia dream team of providers, and we can definitely help you do that. Just go to today's show notes, fibromyalgiapodcast.com/61, and you will find the option to schedule a consultation with a coach. Now, we do have a lot of listeners who are in Norway. For some reason I don't understand, Norway is one of the top 5 countries that listen to the Fibromyalgia podcast. So if you are in Norway, I highly recommend you go check out FibroFokus. This is a really great team of really caring women who can help you feel better. And so I encourage you to follow them, make an appointment with them, reach out to them, particularly if you are in Norway. Again, we'll have all their links in today's show notes, fibromyalgiapodcast.com/61. I also want to mention in this interview, you'll hear us talk a lot about having family support and how important that is. And I know for many of you, if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, but my family isn't supportive. How do I get that? We're actually going to be talking about that on our next episode. I'm going to have Heather Kent here, and we're going to be talking about what to do if your family is not supportive. So stay tuned for that if you find yourself thinking that exact question. For now, though, I want you to enjoy my interview with Hege and Regina. Hi, ladies. Welcome. I am so glad that you were willing to be here and be interviewed for our special Awareness Day episode. I think it's going to be so perfect to talk to people in other parts of the country or the world who are treating fibromyalgia and working with our community. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Regina, why don't we start a little bit with your story? Because I think that will kind of give people an idea for how we got to today. So when were you diagnosed with fibromyalgia? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia only 4 years ago. And I guess I have been living with fibromyalgia symptoms for at least 15 years before that. So I was undiagnosed for many years. And what happens when you are undiagnosed is that you just push and push and push. And finally, the body stops. The body says no. That was exactly what happened to me. And I remember sitting at my office trying to type on my computer, and I couldn't because my fingers were hurting so much. My whole body was hurting. And so I said to myself, this cannot be normal and I need help. So I was referred to our local hospital. And I met this wonderful rheumatologist who really took her time with me. And after a full examination, she said to me, I think I know what's going on with your body. And I remember I was really stressed out. because I was wondering what will she say? And she said, I believe you have fibromyalgia. And I remember my heart just dropped, because I have been wondering what was going on, and I have been reading, and the last thing that I wanted was fibromyalgia. And the reason for that is that I knew that this was, I knew all the controversy around it. I knew the stigma. I knew that people were not taking it seriously. And I immediately felt so much shame. So I was sitting there at the doctor's office, and finally someone took me seriously, and finally I had an answer, and I just felt ashamed.
Oh, that's so hard. But I think so many people can relate to that, right?
Yeah, because I felt, in a way, I felt embarrassed that I was being chronically ill. I was thinking, me of all people, how could this happen? And when I started to, I think it was a couple of seconds there when everything was going on in my mind and all the emotions, I said, okay, fibromyalgia. Okay, I know it has a name. I can do something about it. So, and the most important part was that I'm not gonna die, because I was afraid that because I was really, really in a bad condition. My body was in a really bad condition. So I was a bit relieved about the fact that it was fibromyalgia. What happened next was that because I have been living undiagnosed for so many years, I was ready to take action. And I was thinking, okay, what's the next step? And what is going to be my treatment plan? And she looked at me and she said, we don't really know what causes fibromyalgia, and we don't really know how to treat it. So we don't have a treatment plan for you. And I remember my heart just dropped again. And I was thinking, wow, how is this what is gonna happen? Who can help me? What am I gonna do? And we started discussing different things. In Norway, we have a very good healthcare system in Norway. So the only thing they could offer me, which is a very good thing, is I could go to a rehabilitation center for 3 or 4 weeks. But I had 2 small children under the age of 4 back home. And I could not go away for 3 to 4 weeks. So I knew that that was not an option for me. So I remember walking outside the local hospital with nothing but confusion. I was a mother. I could not go to work because I was too ill. And I felt completely lost. And that was a horrible feeling, being in a position like that. Luckily for me, I had a good social structure. So I had a loving husband. I had family and friends who supported me. So I knew that I was not alone in my life. But I felt very much alone in living with fibromyalgia and being diagnosed with that. So what basically happened was I started to read. And read and read and read. And I was all over the internet. And that's where I found you, Tami.
Right.
So that was one of, I believe maybe the first time that I got a really good relief. And I was thinking, I can do this. There is a whole community out there. And I started to figure out what is in Norway. Where can I go? And I found out all these a couple of associations, and I started to attend meetings and socializing with other people with fibromyalgia, and that was also key. The very next day, when I was diagnosed, I had an appointment with Lila. And Lila, she is our nurse and naturopath. And I was in shock over actually have something that was called something.
Right. Instead of just this vague, something's wrong with me. We don't, yeah.
Yeah. And I was also in shock that I didn't really know what to do. So I said to her, this cannot be it. We need to do something. We need to do something. And she said, I totally agree, because she had been working with fibromyalgia patients for years, giving them physical therapy. And that was the start of FibroFokus. And we started, what can we do? And I was thinking, what do I need? And where can I find it? And how about doing something for us? And after a while, we figured out that we needed a doctor. And I knew about Hege because we have been working together at the outpatient clinic for addiction and trauma. And we asked her if she wanted to join us, and she said yes. And that was also very a milestone, because now we knew we also had the medical aspect. So that's how it started. And when we had this team put together, we were thinking that we also need someone who can help us get the message out. So then we found the fourth lady of our group, which is the computer engineer, Hege Tønnesen, and she helped us with all the stuff that we need to do to get our message out there. So
awesome. That's so great. And, you know, I said in the introduction that FibroFokus is the first outpatient clinic in Norway. And I think we should talk about that for a second, because as you mentioned in your story, you had the option of going somewhere where you could get help, but it wasn't an outpatient clinic. You would have to go and be there.
Yes.
You know, I assume something like Monday through Friday for 3 or 4 weeks and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I needed to go away, and I needed to go away for 3 or 4 weeks, and that is a very good. A lot of people have can do that, because maybe if they have older kids or anything. But for me, that was not an option. I needed something that was locally in my town, so I could go home to my family, and being a mother.
Right, right. I actually get quite a few questions about clinics like that and if it's worth doing. And I think it can be, you know, depending on the program and what they know and how they're treating people. But I also think, wow, that is just so hard, right? I mean, even if you don't have small children like you did, to be able to get that much time away from work if you're working, or just to, I don't know, be in a fibro body and have to sleep in a strange bed that isn't my own. Right? Like this is hard.
Yes, it is. It is.
But we were also talking about, Regina, is also that after 4 weeks, you can stay at a place in 4 weeks, but you need so much more after that. So by being an outpatient, you can get so much more help more than those 4 weeks. And then it's the same person that's helping you for a longer time, rather than staying one place in 4 weeks and then getting to know somebody else or somebody new with your story and who you are and where you're going. You need to start all over again with a new person after those 4 weeks.
So true. So true. And the other thing too is we have to learn how to live in the bodies that we have, in the life that we have, right? Like it's one thing to be able to figure out how to handle your fibromyalgia when you're somewhere completely different, aren't in your usual routine, don't have to go to work, don't have to take care of your family, but then you go home and the rules all change. Right. So we have to know how to manage ourselves in our real lives.
Yeah, that is so true. And also you need to, all the tools that you're learning, you need to practice them in your own environment to figure out what works for me and what do I need to do different. And So it's very important.
Absolutely. Now, Hege, what was your side of this story? So before, Regina came and found you, what was your experience? Did you have experience with fibromyalgia leading up to that? Tell us your side of the story.
I did. I have been, before I started as a general practitioner in 2006. And at that time, it was more a diagnosis that was given with, if you hurt of 10 or 18 points in your body, you got a kind of a diagnosis. And I remember having patients, I thought it was quite terrible to give a diagnosis that has so much around it because you're hurting in 10 points. It seemed so meaningless. I felt they didn't really get a good diagnosis. They didn't get a good look at things. And when they got the diagnosis, it was kind of like, what do I do next? Well, there's not really much to give you. And it was quite hard because the patients would come in and they were hurt, and you would try to refer them someplace and they didn't get the help because nobody really, because it was maybe not a new diagnosis, but there was not much information around it at that time. And it was quite frustrating not to be able to help the patients because I saw they were in pain. I saw it was difficult. They weren't coping at work. They weren't coping at home. And they came and I was sitting there and I just really couldn't help them. That's quite frustrating. But you're sitting there supposed to help people and I couldn't. And I didn't have anything really good place to refer them either. So we were kind of like, oh, I know, I see you don't, I can help you get a sick leave. I can, and you can also, of course, you can give medication, but that's not the prime thing. They don't want to go around being super medicated and tired and all that. That's not what they want. That's not what I really want to give them either. So when Regine called and she told me she'd got the diagnosis, I really actually felt quite sorry for her because I remembered all the patients I've had and when I've been as a general practitioner, and I kind of felt, oh no, now you're going to go get there. And then she was thinking and then she said, well, we're starting a clinic. And I was going, hey, this is what we need. This is like a gift to every general practitioner in Norway. This is like a super gift. Now they have somebody say, look, you can go there. And also you have more time in a clinic. Like when in my day, I have 25 patients. It gives me like 20 minutes per patient, 25 if I'm lucky. But in this clinic, you can actually put out an hour. You can really, the patient can feel as if you really have the time to listen. You have the time to try to explore everything, all the aspects. And after I started with at the addiction center, the integrated part of way of working, I've really started to like, because it's just a way of that we all have our different occupation and we're looking at the patients from a different angle. And it's really exciting that I look at it at my angle and Regina looks at it from her angle, also having the diagnosis. And then we have Laila who looks at it from her angle. And then we can all sit and discuss it afterwards. And it's really interesting because then we can see the whole person, not just one aspect of it. And that I really enjoyed that when I started at the addiction center. So, and I also knew that would be the same thing because Regina also works in that way in the addiction center. So that would be the way we would work together in this center. And that's something I think the patients deserve, because fibromyalgia, it's so complicated, so complex. It's so it goes in so many, it affects so many things of your life that you can't just see it at one point. You can't kind of give a pill and all this is, you're doing good now, just take this and everything will be fine. That's not how it works. So I think that was really, I was really glad when she asked, because if I can do something, if I feel like now I can actually go back and say, hey, now I can help you. I couldn't like 10 years ago, but now I can.
Right. Now, listeners of this podcast have heard me talk about that if you really want to get better with fibromyalgia, you need to take a more integrative approach. You need to treat the whole person. And I've also talked a lot about how I see things falling into three main categories. One being the fact we really have things going wrong in our bodies, right? There's actual actual medical things to fix. We also have our mindset, how we think about our illness, how we approach life, how hopeful or pessimistic we might be. And then there's all the lifestyle changes, right? Whether I'm pushing myself too hard, and even just things like ergonomics can make a huge difference. So I would love to hear a little bit about the approach that you take at FibroFokus. I know that you are an integrative approach. So actually, maybe let's start there. For people who have heard that term but don't really know what that means, for you in your clinic, what does an integrative approach mean to you?
First of all, it means that we see the whole person and every aspect, and we believe that everything that occurs is in a system, and everything affects every aspect affects each other. So you can't just work on one part. You can't just work on your body without having added the mind. So that I think is the way we see it. So it would be I don't think there is another way to approach. In fact, I wouldn't know any other way. And we also say one thing is the body and how the body is working, and also how the mind is challenged by all the symptoms of fibromyalgia. And there's also a third aspect, which is your family situation, your work situation, your economy, for instance. And we have medication as a fourth aspect. So if you, do you think it would be okay if we just look at those different aspects and just
kind of talk about each one for a minute? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Which one should we start with, Hege?
Well, because we've always been talked about as our foundation. We think like the three major foundations are the physiologically, the psychological, and all the external areas, which are more like family, work, and everything that affects you outside. And if one thing's off there, it affects the other two. And then the medication is kind of like the fourth that you can add on, and when your foundation is good, when you've looked at the foundation, you can't do anything more with that, you've done as well as you can, then you can start looking at the medication next to it. And that's why we try to really explore these three in the foundation first. We can't do you want to start with the psychological bit?
Yeah, that's good. I believe that the first thing that we need to start with is the fact that we need to accept the situation we are in and accept that you have this diagnosis. And for many people, they think that accepting the situation is the same thing as giving up.
Right.
Because and that is totally understandable. Because people are trying to put themselves together as much as they can. And they are afraid that if they let go of something, everything will fall apart. So that is totally understandable. And we work with that because when people come to our clinic, many of them are very sad and they are grieving the situation that they are in, and they are grieving the person they used to be, and they can't find themselves anymore anywhere. So that is the first thing that we are working on, and that is something you were talking about in the last podcast about self-esteem, and everything is affected by that. And the main question is, who am I now?
Exactly right. Yeah. And a lot of times we totally lose that, if our identity is in what kind of a mother we are, or a friend, or the work that we have, right? And our identity is so tied into those things, then we can't do them anymore, or can't do them in the same way. Then we're left wondering, who am I now? Yeah. It's a huge piece.
Yeah, it is. And it's also where are your goals? I mean, now just don't, as Regina was saying, don't give up, just change your goals. And how can we at the clinic help you to maybe not get the goals that, like Regina was saying the other day, maybe you can't climb Kilimanjaro and you can climb something else. You can maybe run 5 miles instead of 20 miles. You can and if we in the clinic can be able to help you change or reach a goal, get some self-value, find your value in the community, find your value back, get your self-esteem going. It will also help so many other things. Because one thing affects so much the other. So if you can increase one other foundation, that will automatically basically increase some of the others as well. Especially that of accepting who you are and seeing your value and seeing that you can be a good mom, or so you can be a good partner. You can actually do something at work, will help you so much more with the positivity, as you can find the positive things instead of constantly looking at everything you can't do and all the things you can't join and how much you have to say no and how much. If you try to turn that and find out the positive things instead, and we're hoping that FibroFokus can do that as well. We can help the patients find these things.
Yeah, because it is difficult to do this shift of focus all by yourself. And I remember when I started out with my fibromyalgia coach, Dr. Robin Pfaff, that something happened when I had someone that could challenge me in that way. And many people think that their lives would be much worse now that they have this diagnosis. But we experience that life is just a little bit different. And we need to find what's different. Because when it's different, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that you need to really think about something else. Maybe something that you haven't thought about would find your interest, or you figure out you have some new skills, but that is really, really hard doing by yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I know that one of the things about the FibroFokus team is you all kind of have your own particular strengths and areas. Regina, is this the part that you are primarily helping people with? I mean, I realize everybody is going to be helping, right?
Yeah, I think this is my area because I am a clinical social worker and a family therapist. And I think I have been lucky that I have this education that I can still use. I find myself very lucky to be in that position, and also to be able to work with something that really I'm passionate about. So, and also the family therapy part. We want that every patient at our clinic comes there with their partner, or the people they live with, or the chosen family, or if they live with kids, because it's so important to also include them. So and also having the Fibromyalgia Advisor course has also helped me a lot, being able to give the right treatment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what a benefit to your patients and your clients too, you being somebody who understands fibromyalgia, has walked in their shoes, to be able to relate to them.
Yeah, and I get a lot of questions on where I'm at my journey and what I have done, and also I think it helps me coping with my with the fibromyalgia diagnosis, because every day I get reminded on what I need to do. So it's so for me I think it's a win-win situation. Really.
Totally. Yep. I've always said being a coach is my secret weapon. It keeps me on the straight and narrow.
That is so true. That is so true. Yeah. So
now, Hege, since you are the doctor of the group, I imagine that obviously the medication piece of things falls into your domain, but also I imagine a lot of the physiologic stuff that that you guys were talking about on that list. Do you want to talk about your piece?
Yeah, because when the patients come in, it's really important to what is actually the fibromyalgia, or is there something else going on? Because if there's other things that are going on, it's quite hard to. We need to get all that out of the way. So if you have a headache and you have high blood pressure, well, we need to fix that first, and then we can see does the headache go away or is it to something else? Is it same with the symptoms? We have to make sure that it's not other things going on, because it's not. You can have fibromyalgia and very many other things. And then it's really easy just to say, oh, it's the fibromyalgia. Oh, it's the fibromyalgia. Maybe it's not that. So it's quite important. We have a sheet of paper, a questionnaire kind of thing, that all our patients have to, they write or they fill it out when they get there. And we go through that. So Regina has the first conversation, but then she goes through the patients with me afterwards, so that we are always several people going through the patient, making sure there's nothing that's, hang on, wait, what's that? That shouldn't be there. So we're trying to make sure that we don't diagnose at the clinic. We take people who are diagnosed already to our clinic, because I want their general practitioner to, in a way, be on a team with us. I'm not competing with them. I want to join them so that we can together try to make the best everything for the patient. So I'm not trying to go in their shoes or try to change things they've already done. I can come with recommendations, and I can look at the medication, and I could call the other doctor and say, look, I found this. What do you think? But I want to keep them on the loop, because they are the ones that the person maybe have gone to for years and they trust. And then I don't want to make that relationship. I want to strengthen that relationship and be a part of it, not be a competition of it. So we go through things, and if there's things I think that, okay, maybe that medications shouldn't, maybe that's not the best one, maybe they should try something else, then I would just call and I would talk to their doctor, and we could try to figure out something together. Or I could call and say, look, I found your patient is hurting, and maybe you can take an x-ray, or maybe you could refer to, because here in Norway, the system is the person who refers also gets the answers back. So if I start referring, I want their doctor to have all the papers in their journal, so that the patient always knows where they can find all their answers and results. So hopefully we can help the patient. If the patient doesn't feel she's understood, then I could take that telephone and say, look, you've had a patient, she's filled out our questionnaire. I'm pretty sure it's a fibromyalgia, but you can refer to, you can get the diagnosis if they don't have it, but we don't give the diagnosis. But I could call and I could refer, and I could basically whatever. But I try really to make sure that me and her doctor or his doctor, we're working together, and the patient also is trustworthy of that. So she feels pretty confident that we're both trying to help her.
Right. I know one of the challenges that happens a lot of times for people is they wonder whose advice they're supposed to be taking, right? One doctor will tell them
really
one thing.
hard.
Yeah. So I love that you are working with their main doctor on that as well. What are some of the things that you often check when people come in? Things that maybe their primary care doctor hasn't looked at, or that very often is missed? What are some of those things that you would look at in a patient?
I think normally when they come to us, they've already had the diagnosis. So normally they would be pretty good checked out. But then we have some people who call us and they don't feel that they're understood. They don't feel that their doctor takes them seriously. And we've said that, okay, you can come in. I won't give the diagnosis, but we can go through and check out. And normally I feel the people who call us have been so much on the internet that they're actually quite sure. They've looked and they've kind of been looking everywhere and like, I know I have this. And then we can go in and we can help them and assure them that we could say, well, I agree, it looks quite like this. And then I could call the doctor and say, okay, they've been here. And of course, it helps them if I call them and say, look, I've looked at the patient. I'm pretty sure this is what she's have. And you need to refer to the local hospital so that she can get the diagnosis properly. And then we can take her back here and start working with her properly. So it's more those kind of things. But there's always, we always make sure you look at the heart, you make sure about the blood pressure. There's things like that. You always met, things that are important to be sure that aren't, when we're not overlooking.
Mm-hmm. That we're just saying, oh, that's fibromyalgia when maybe it's something else going on too.
And what's going to be exciting is we haven't had the clinic for that long. So that it might still be that the patients are coming in, look, I have a new symptom. And then I can go in and say, okay, well, yeah, that's quite normal for fibromyalgia. Or I can say, well, that's not quite normal. So I'm a bit excited about that. We haven't had, the patient has been, the clinic hasn't been open for that long. So we haven't really got into that kind of, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm pretty sure it will sometime, that the patient will kind of come in and just assume it's another symptom from fibromyalgia, which it will probably not be then.
Talk to me about the other members of your team and the other ways that you treat the patients that come in, because I know the two of you are not all of it. There's a lot more that goes on.
Yeah, that's true. Well, as Hege told, the first consultation is a double consultation where they talk to me and I will look at all the aspects of their life. Trying to figure out how, in what area we can help and what they think the problem is. And then they will also meet Laila, who is our naturopath and nurse, and she would have a full examination of their bodies. We used to say that she don't have an X-ray vision, but she knew, she had a lot of experience looking at a fibromyalgia body. So she can also go through your body and see, well, this is not typical. Maybe you should, your knee shouldn't be like that. Maybe you should have an X-ray of your knee, or, and working on body awareness, I think is the right word. Because we need to work with body and mind together, because many people are afraid of experiencing pain, because we do not want any more pain because we have enough. So if we think that it would be nice starting to do some exercises, or just go for a walk, you will naturally experience pain, because you're doing something with your body that you probably haven't done for a while. And so a really good thing is to figure out what is good pain and what is bad pain. And what is a different kind of pain, a new pain, for instance, that you need to check out. So she would go through the patient's body, and we do this at the same day, because we need to get started up the momentum of working on different areas at the same time, because we believe that it affects each other. So and also she's also working on what we eat. So and that is also an important part of living with fibromyalgia, because many have other conditions that gives them allergies, or they are affected by what they eat. And so she talks with patient on what it's what kind of food that is good for you. And I talk with patient on how to regulate your emotion with something else than food, for instance. Or I talk to how to change your habit around food. And what is also important is that when you are so tired and you are in a lot of pain, you cannot go to the kitchen. and cook a perfectly healthy meal that takes 3 hours because you haven't got the energy for it. So we also talk about what can we do to make sure that in those periods that you are feeling worse, you also need to eat healthy. And so we do preparation. We will always talk about doing changes when you are feeling better, and when you're feeling worse, you're just gonna trying to survive the situation. So that is really important, working with the body, working with the mind all together. So so she is doing a tremendous work on our patients' bodies and the awareness around that. Yeah. And so also, as I talked about, we also have a fourth girl in our team. She does all the technical stuff. So we don't need to worry about, for instance, being on your podcast on how these technical terms are going to be, or that kind of stuff. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. Now, do you have other types of therapies at the clinic, like massage or osteopathic adjustments, those kinds of things as well?
Yeah, she does the physical therapy on our patients. But we have a lot of plans, so we will be having more in the future. So yeah.
Right. Now, for people who are interested, who are in Norway, in your area, what is the best way to get in touch with FibroFokus, to make an appointment, or even just follow you, social media? Why don't you give me some of those links?
Our website is unfortunately on Norwegian. We are working on it. So the best way to contact us outside of Norway is by an email. We can give them, maybe write down the address, and I think the easiest part is to just find us on Instagram or Facebook, FibroFokus, and just send us a message.
Perfect. Now, I know I mentioned to the two of you before we started the interview, we have a lot of listeners in Norway. Norway is one of the top 5 countries that listen to this podcast. So we probably do have some people who are in Norway who would be happy to read your website in Norwegian. It's just fibrofocus.no.
No, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And we will have that in today's show notes too, for those of you who are listening. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/61 for today's episode, and we will have all the links so you can follow FibroFokus on social media and find their website. Now, Regina, I know we started with your story leading up to the formation of FibroFokus, the clinic, the team. Tell me a little bit about where you're at now. Give us the happily ever after picture.
Well, I think I'm in a progress. I'm not sure if it's happily ever after yet, because I need to be, but I'm working on it. I've done some major changes in my life to feel better, because that was the right thing for me to do. I have more days without pain than with pain. And I experience when I have this, I now know why I'm having these flare-ups most of the times. And I feel more of control of what's going on in my body. So that is a really, really good thing. And I generally, I guess I feel more happy with my life, because I also feel very proud being able to work through this. But as I said, I would not have been able to do it by myself. Yeah, I feel more happy and more. It is more joy in my life now, concerning my own health, and I can run again, and that is something that is really amazing, because I love to run.
Mm-hmm. I remember that actually when you were taking the advisor course, how hard that was for you not to run at the time. So that's so exciting.
But I think also, Regina, if there is a day with a flare up, you'll just call and say, look, today is not a pretty good day. I'll do as good as I can. That you're quite open, just this is how it is. And you're not trying to push it on. It's even though you're having a bad day. So, okay, this is it. Is that I'll do what I can do. Bear with me. That's it. And hopefully tomorrow it'll be better. Like if we give you a call, you'll say, you know what, give me 5 minutes. I might not be able to talk more than that. And that's totally fine. But just that you're so open, just telling us straight away, today's, not the best day today. We'll give it a best shot. And then we know where you're at. Instead of you're trying to covering it up and pushing it and pushing and pushing it. And I think it helps us as well, because then we're pretty safe. Okay, today you have a good day, we can work, we can keep going. And the days when you're telling us, then we'll just take it easy and let you make sure how you're doing, and we'll stop when you're finished, when you're not feeling up to it.
And that's where the joy and happy part comes in. Because having those limits or boundaries for yourself, you can choose more where to use your energy. And so to make sure that you really are not going to miss out on anything because your body don't listen.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah. So,
that's one of the things that I've always said, one of the gifts that I believe that fibromyalgia has given me is really made me aware of the choices that I make. Right? We all only have so many hours in the day. We only have so much energy. I'm just so much more aware of mine that I probably make better choices than a lot of people do, because I have to,
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And I also think that I'm now the mother that I wanted to be. And I can take part in every aspect of their lives. And that is really, really important. So it's good, but it's been a journey. And I think the only way to have a better life is to decide that you need to get help, or you need to do something to change the situation. And when you decide that, there is a whole world for you to come back to. So, yeah.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. Now, Hege, are there any, just to kind of wrap this up, we've heard Regina's story. Are there any of your favorite client successes, things that you've seen in patients that you've worked with? Just give us a few ideas of some of those improvements that you've seen.
It's I think one of what I feel is amazing is that what Regina said, when people actually come back and things that mean the most, either it's their partner or as a mom or a job, and they go from coming in, getting the diagnosis, going really down in the basement, finding life really hard, everything's quite negative. They feel quite hopeless. And when they get that turn and they start feeling confident again, and you see them smiling, and they actually come in and go, look, this is all right. I'm going to live with this. That does something. If I've done something to help them on that way, that's really good to watch, because they can just see the whole face lightens up, the eyes lightens up. It's just the way they talk and especially by that being a parent, a mom or a dad, and also being seen by their partner. I think that's one of the things that because I'm a mom myself, I can hear when they come in, they feel that, I shouldn't even be a mom. Maybe they're better off basic with the other or dads, and maybe they're basic better off without me being there. And then they come back and say, no, hang on, I'm doing actually quite good at this. They need me. I maybe not be able to do all the things all the other moms or dads can do, but I can do quite heck of a lot. And I'm here, and I'm actually more at home, and I'm, as you're saying, I'm using my energy properly. I know when I need to be there, and also when the spouse, the partner or the spouse sees them, and they actually get it. Maybe they sit down and talk, and they haven't talked properly for years. They actually get maybe a better marriage because they've sat down and they've actually start talking together. You know, what can I do? What can you do? When can we be together? And that's really wonderful. When you see actually things turns around, that gives so much hope, and it gives me hope that there is something that we can do. There is actually something I can give them. It's not just, well, good luck, hope it works out for you. There's actually something we can do. And that's good to feel as a doctor, that because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help people get better. And it's quite frustrating when you can't. And now I feel I can. And it's quite exciting and almost thrilling. You know, you want to help everybody. Come here, we can help you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and that is, and what you said, that is so important as well, because when we see people just starting to accept the situation and realizing that they can take action, that they have the power inside themselves to take action, that they aren't lost, they haven't lost themselves, they've just been hiding, or we need to just invite them back again. That is powerful. And some people need more time than others on that, but the people who commit, they will have results.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And there is such magic in taking your power back, you know, and feeling like you have some control over what happens in your life. That shift from this is happening to me to being able to have some influence over your life, shifting from almost a victim mindset to a proactive, I'm in control of my own life type mindset. It changes everything.
Oh gosh, yeah. And it affects everything. It affects if you can improve your self-esteem, your feeling of value. It also makes other people, it makes you happier. And of course, when you're happier, everybody else is happy around you as well. So you just see the kind of domino effect of it when you start turning things around. But as Regina said, it takes time. It's not done in 2 days, or it's not done in a week. These things take time. And for some people some have a milder version, and some have a much more hit by it. And you also have to you can't look at your neighbor who has fibromyalgia, hang on, but why did they get that in 2 weeks and I don't? That's not how it works. We're so different of how long it takes. And we also have our baggage. Some people have more in the baggage in the backpack than from their upbringing and what have you than others do. And that plays a part as well. So it is that foundation. It's everything that's going on. Some people have workplaces and the employers see them quite quickly, will help them. You can have some time at home. You can come a bit later at work, so you can get a calm morning, and that will of course help some people. But not everybody has an employer who does that, and that might be harder for them. And maybe Regina has a work she can use to her occupation, she can just build on the occupation that she's doing now. Not everybody has that. Some people has to think completely new, which will take longer time than somebody who actually can just build on what they have. So it's really important not to look at another person with the same diagnosis and kind of think what's similar, because everybody has their story, everybody has their situation, everybody has their baggage, or in the backpack, what I usually call it, and you have to work from there.
And that is really important also to have in mind for every person that we meet, that every story is different. And that is the starting point.
Yep. So, right. Exactly. So let's go ahead and we've been talking for a while here, so let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. Hege, I would like you to go first and just give you a minute to speak from your heart to the people who might be listening. What is it that you wish that they knew?
after getting the diagnosis, do you think, or is that what you're thinking?
However you want to approach that question.
Well, actually, when you're asking me that, I would wish that the society didn't have the stigma that they have, to be really honest, as that's what's really, because when a person gets the diagnosis, it's hard, because as soon as you say to somebody, I have fibromyalgia, you kind of get these myths going on. Oh, you're like that. Oh, yeah, right. We've heard that before. Or now you can't do anything. There's so much stigma. There's so much negativity around it. And that, I feel, is it's so unnecessary that you have to start working with that when you have more than enough with yourself. And that's going on as well. And so I really would hope that society, more doctors, everybody around knows more about it. So when people come, this is it. Oh, okay, good. We know how to help you. We've heard of this. That's, instead of meeting the negativity of it, because that's just unbearable when you're in sorrow in yourself, and then it's almost shameful telling your friends what you have, because they've heard of all these people with fibromyalgia. Yeah, right. Oh, they're just people laying down, and it's not like that. They're working hard. They're really trying to turn things around, and they need the support. They really need the support of the family and the spouse and their friends. And I think that's so important. I'm so glad we have Regina, who's the family specialist, a therapist, because that is so important, to get everybody around you to know what the diagnosis is like, so they can support you. You can be your cheering. You need the cheering. You need somebody saying, hey, come on, we're helping you. We're here for you. And for me, that's, if we can get that in society, we've done a huge thing for the patients who get the diagnosis.
Excellent. I totally agree. Regina, what would you say to people who are listening? Speak from your heart to theirs.
I think I would say that just listening to this podcast, you have taken an enormous first step of a better life. So you are doing good. The next step is what is your next step? And you are brave, and you have the power to change around your situation. The first thing you need to do is to seek out for help, because there are someone out there who can help you. So you can so you can continue this journey. That is going to be a good journey, and you're going to reach your goals, and you're going to be there at the end. So I guess that's what I was thinking. And we got your back.
That's right. That's right. We do. And I love that, that you brought up the whole point of not being able to do this by yourself. Like, that is totally my story too. Like, I would not be here at all if my doctor hadn't introduced me to my coach way back when. It's so hard when you're stuck in the muck of your own situation to be able to see that, right? You're lost in the middle of the forest, so you can't really see your way out. So I think it's really important to have help. And I am so glad that FibroFokus is out there helping our fibromyalgia brothers and sisters in Norway. So thank you guys so much for being here, for doing what you do. And everyone who's listening, just make sure you go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/61. We will have all those links for you so that you can follow them and watch what they're up to. All right. Well, thank you again so much for being here. And for everyone listening, I know we talked a lot about family support on this episode. Regina and I have talked about different ways we can have her come back to talk about a few more things regarding that. I also, next episode, I have Heather Kent coming to talk about what to do if your family isn't supportive. Her particular area of expertise is with those family members who are very not supportive. So we're going to be talking about that next week, and stay tuned, because I'm sure we'll have Regina and maybe even Hege back. Thanks so much, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of the Fibromyalgia Podcast. If you're ready to see if working with a fibromyalgia coach can help you feel better faster, visit fibromyalgiapodcast.com, where you can schedule a complimentary consultation to explore your options. During this call, we'll discuss your fibromyalgia journey, what your needs and challenges are, and give you recommendations on how to reach your goals the quickest way possible. Thank you for tuning in today, and join us next time as we explore more ways to help you take back control of your life and health. My music and sound editing were done by Daniel Munkus at Subtle Soup Records. Podcast management and creative copy by Sonia Louise of Performance Podcasting.